I have to preface this video by saying that I am a political centrist to the core. On Monday, I might lean left. On Tuesday, I might lean right. At the end of the week, when you crunch the numbers, usually it's about 50-50. I personally don't want to be anybody's fool. If that means sitting on the fence, then a sitting on the fence I will be. If you want to imagine that it's Monday because that's your political predilection, then by all means do so. Maybe you want to imagine it's Tuesday. That's fine too. But in this video, let's just roll the dice and say that I'm going to be speaking to the left in this video. The liberals, okay? Doesn't it seem convenient that right around the time that the climate chaos is supposed to culminate in the not so distant future, whether that be ocean acidification, overfishing, forest fires, droughts, topsoil erosion, the list goes on, okay? Once all these things culminate, it makes it very, very difficult to live and brings upon us very austere times, downgrading the socioeconomic standard of living of everybody, particularly the middle and lower class. Isn't it going to be convenient that right around the time when that happens, you are also completely neutered in your ability to defend yourself? Now, whether you're pro-2A or not, you got to be asking that question, because if you are on the left, chances are you subscribe to the line that the climate's changing and it's anthropogenic, meaning that we are causing it in some way, shape, or form, and that there's going to be dire consequences. Those are the projections. Those are the conservative projections, okay? The more liberal projections, no pun intended, is that it's going to be complete and utter chaos, and we're going to see a Malthusian catastrophe of epic proportions, okay? That's a giga-death type scenario. The sea levels are going to rise. They're going to wipe coastal cities off the map. There's going to be droughts. There's going to be famines, yada, 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 so on and so forth. If you believe that, would you want to be in a position where you had less individual rights or more individual rights? Would you want to be in a position where you could be more self-reliant to not only protect yourself, but let's face it, grow your own food? Just live by your own common sense rules, mores, and laws. Do you think that that would be a good thing or a bad thing? So why is it that rolled up into that whole platform is this idea that we need to strip people of their rights to defend themselves the world over? And why is it that in country after country, that goalpost continues to be moved? It's not just about the big scary firearms, okay? Once they get those, they go for other things, and then they go for other things, and before you know it, you can only carry around one BB for your slingshot, or else you're over the legal limit. And this is not exaggeration. We've seen this happen in the UK. Now, conveniently, you got to ask yourself, while the elites are preparing their off-grid retreats and, having their little insurance policies here and there, and while Atlas Survival Shelters is building a record amount of bunkers for very important people around the planet, you got to ask yourself, why is it that the police are being militarized while you, the populace, is being demilitarized? And yes, I'm talking to you, the liberals, as well, okay? You got to ask yourself that. And this is not to throw shade at the police. I know they're just following orders, like many people have followed orders throughout many debacles throughout human history. I know that after the Geneva Convention and the United Nations and whatever other documents were signed in the 1940s, that basically wiped away 100,000 years of human nature, which basically had us at each other's throats throughout that time, trying to inflict tyranny on one another. We know that tyranny is something that just simply can't happen anymore because, well, I guess rock and roll and television? I'm not sure why, but I guess that's the tacit argument, is that, these things can never happen again because we're different now, right? We signed some documents, and we got TV now, we got the internet, we're just better people all around. Right? These things could never happen. We could never see a dystopian future where these Boston Dynamic robots are policing us in the streets and we have no rights to defend ourselves. We can't see that. How could something like that ever come about? Now, look, as you guys know, I'm pro-mask. Okay, I think that if that's all you got to do is wear a mask, then wear a freaking mask. It sucks. Take one for the team. get it over with. Do I agree that people should be manhandled, thrown in jail, and given these outrageous fines and things of that nature? Obviously not. Do I think that it's very convenient that these authoritarian methods are priming the population to accept this sort of treatment while we enter this age of climate consequences that they're projecting? Don't you think it's convenient that on the one hand, you have inevitable projections of hits the fan? You also have the idea that you're losing your right to defend yourself, and you're acclimating to being treated like a child, like a total child. Don't you think those three things are just way too convenient for the widening wealth gap and the people in power right now? Don't you just think that, the people who, what are they, added some outrageous amount of money to their wealth, $500 billion to their wealth last year, the top 1%, is that going to be an inconvenience to them? Or is that going to be something that's really great for them when the proverbial crap hits the fan? If we're talking about a Mad Max scenario, I would want to have more rights to defend myself, not less, especially if we knew that the economy was going to be in the pisser for the next couple of years at least, and crime was going to be going up, and budgets are going to be stretched thin, budgets which have been in some ways and forms defunded. But I think that the protest slogans are going to possibly change in the near future. And there's going to be less pronoun enforcing enthusiasts. And those jingles are going to be replaced by chants for lower food prices and trying to deal with the rampant crime on the streets. And I'm not trying to take away from any of the grievances which have been voiced throughout these protests or the prevailing views of these protests in the past year. Not trying to take away from that. I'm just saying that the flavor of the protests is going to change in the not so distant future. Now, we do know that firearm purchases are at record levels and that a lot of people have changed their perspective on this. I listen to a lot of progressive radio, as I do a lot of right-wing radio, conservative radio. And I find that the progressive voice is starting to be a bit more sympathetic to the cause of self-defense after they've seen people tear through Santa Monica like a swarm of locusts last year during the riots. Now, it seems to me that whether it's by design or not, and I'm not going to put on the tinfoil hat and say it is, because I think that by and large, people act out of individual interests, and the government is comprised of individuals all trying to put forth their individual interests. I don't think many of them are enlightened enough to want to partake in some grand long-form agenda. But that's just my personal belief. But once again, I'm open to hearing arguments about it and theories, but that's all they are, is just theories, unless a person has some proof. Now, let's not go down too far into that rabbit hole. What I will say is that it does appear that there are playing pieces being moved into position so that when all of these catastrophes finally converge, it's going to be coincidentally or not coincidentally at all, however you want to look at it, convenient that they're just going to have turnkey totalitarianism at their disposal. And they're going to be able to just turn it on, and there's not going to be much that people can do about it. Is that what's going on here? Is the population growth of the human species just like the stock market? Are we in a bubble? Are we in a population bubble right now that has to correct itself with a gigadeath type scenario, as it has many times throughout history? We've had it pretty good since 1945, since the cleanup began. We've had it relatively good around the world compared to the thousands and hundreds of thousands of years prior. But we're not in the clear yet. So I know I'm opening up a can of wild worms here, and I know it's videos like this that likely keep my channel buried within the algorithm. But I also know that there's people who are far more vocal than me about many of the aforementioned issues who seem to be doing fine. So maybe it's just my conflating it with preparedness and my encouraging people to actually do something of a practical nature and not just sit there and talk and talk and talk politics all day Maybe it's because I only do a video once in a blue moon about this sort of thing and politics that I am a bigger target. I'm not sure. But then again, I'm not trying to play victim either, because I'm hoping that innocuous, well-reasoned, measured video like this is not going to impact my channel at all. And hopefully, it's not going to put any of my audience out at all. Hopefully, it compels you to think a bit more deeper about things, and maybe I challenged you to think about a few things. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, but I will say this: the time to get ready, the time to get self-reliant is nigh. Thanks for watching Canadian Prepper Out.